On October 11th, just last week, lawyer and human rights activist Nicholas Opiyo criticized General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, the Uganda's chief of defense forces and first son, in a tweet questioning his capabilities. His posts fueled backlash and debate around the authenticity of his claims. And in response, journalist Andrew Mwenda, an MD of The Independent, defended General Kainerugaba, asserting that Opiyo's critique stemmed from ignorance and prejudice even rather than genuine insight. Now, Mwenda emphasized General Kainerugaba's intellectual abilities, calling him a ferocious intellectual, his personal experiences with him and his potential that remains unrecognized due to his low public profile. The debate is still on who exactly General Muhoozi Kainerugaba is, and our timelines are awash with conflicting views, and without a space to speak would help everyone understand a man who many define per his selected social media posts. Hello and welcome to this live vision podcast here on X Spaces, a special edition to answer the question, who is General Muhoozi Kainerugaba from Andrew Mwenda's perspective? My name is Razia Athman, speaking behind the @NewVisionWire handle. And for more of Vision Podcasts episodes, you can log on to www.newvision.co.ug/podcasts, or you can find a variety of our shows on the Vision Digital Experience app. You need to download it if you haven't already. Now, a glimpse into a typical day of the CDF and also Senior Presidential Advisor for Special Operations. Today, he hosted a luncheon at the Defense Intelligence and Security Headquarters to appreciate the participants of the Independence Day Parade, highlighting the significance of parades in showcasing discipline and military capabilities. And he noted that a well-executed parade demonstrates the effectiveness of a force. Andrew Mwenda is here to speak about a man he has known for 32 years. Andrew, thank you so much for making time to defend your own description of your friend.
Thank you very much for inviting me, my granddaughter, Razia, because first of all, I'm not here to defend Muhoozi. Muhoozi doesn't need any defense from me whatsoever. I'm aware, however, that many Ugandans, having not either interacted with him or dealt with him, would have particular opinions of him. My aim is to give an opinion of him based on 32 years of experience with him, of discussions, debates, sharing books, sharing documentaries, watching documentaries together, and in order to bring the person, to give proper understanding of the person. I'm not an outsider, distant, trying to speculate. No. I'm a person who has intimate knowledge of Muhoozi, most especially in the field of intellectual grasp of things. Yeah. So this is not a defense. This is just an explanation.
Okay.
Muhoozi doesn't need any defense from anybody.
Well, thank you for the disclaimer there, because you already saw some feedback to your post that the CDF doesn't need to be defended and that he should be able to speak for himself. But thank you so much for being able to come and share your own, relationship
Who said that?
with him. This is just feedback after your post. But let's move on. I think most people are interested in the outward persona of the Chief of Defense Forces, I imagine. And it's why they are, always going to, first of all, his social media posts, which are public and may not, portray the inner person, who exactly he is, even in the way that he thinks. And just to, draw for us a picture that we have not seen, something that we don't know about General Kainerugaba. Give us some 3 things that, define him, make him who he is, that we do not know about. And we cannot, make the judgment based on social media.
Okay, this I have written in my column. First, Muhoozi is not a talkative person, and he will not talk to everybody he meets. He's a very calm, composed human being who talks only and only when it is absolutely necessary. That is one. So many people have not had the benefit, therefore, of listening to him much. The second is my own experience is that he's also an extremely good listener. If you sit in a group having a discussion, Muhoozi is much more likely to listen than to speak. And if he speaks, it will be very brief in a few sentences. And in those few sentences, he will give an opinion that is rich in terms of its analytical content. That has been my experience with him. He may speak less, but he'll speak in volumes in terms of analytical or what you call cognitive understanding of an issue. His view will be penetrating. And remember, Razia, Muhoozi and I don't agree on many issues. So anyone who has been with me and him, we have so many debates where we disagree intensely. So the person like me who is saying I have a great admiration for Muhoozi's cognitive abilities is not simply based on the fact that he re-echoes my views or that we share views. It's based on the fact that even when we have disagreed, I have walked away when I have felt that I have learned a lot.
Okay. There are so many people who are listening right now but have not read your article in defense of General Kainerugaba, in which you describe him as an intellectually gifted individual. What specific examples can you share that highlight his analytical abilities in discussions on, for example, military strategy?
I would advise them to go and read Muhoozi's book. He wrote a book called Wars of Ugandan Resistance, the History of Maneuver, or the Tradition of Maneuver. Ugandans don't like to just read the introduction alone. You will see a fine mind. And if you want to encounter that fine mind, you can go and have a discussion with him. He will sit, listen to you, but when he begins to talk, and it will be quite brief. And anybody, actually, you see, I should tell you, Razia, this is an interesting thing. For every person who has had intimate knowledge of Muhoozi that I have met and talked to, they have a similar view as mine. For everybody who has never met him and talked to him, many people think whatever little glimpse of him they have had, they consider him to be very intelligent. There are people out there, I think either they are critics or they are envious of him or they have malice or they are suffering from ignorance or they are suffering from prejudice. But I can tell you it's a combination of prejudice, ignorance, malice, envy, would want to claim that this person is not intelligent. And in fact, which is good for Muhoozi, you know. In fact, that's what I'm saying. I don't need to be here to defend him. I think it's very good for people to think, especially those who don't like him, that Muhoozi is not intelligent because they will underestimate the animal in him. They will be making a very big mistake. And I should tell you another thing, Razi, about Ugandans. This is the way Ugandan intellectuals, especially of the opposition variety, of the civil society variety, think. If you don't agree with them, then you're not intelligent. I don't think they're capable of grasping an argument that is so deep and penetrating, but they feel I disagree with it. There are many authors I read, and I think I find it difficult to agree with them. But I respect the analytical bite in the argument. I have not found that with Ugandans. I want Ugandans from me. I said, this man wrote something, and I really disagree. But the level where he analyzes it, the insights he brings, the examples and the information he brings on the table, is quite impressive. This is a very intelligent man. Now, I don't see those Ugandans. Me, I have a group called The Clan. It's composed of a couple of young people, and I think they're the most intelligent, intellectual, astute human beings in the world. These kids, if you took them to Harvard, to Yale, to Stanford, to Cambridge, to Oxford, they would be top 1%. That's how good they are. And the one thing I learned from them is also their ability to disagree with somebody or dislike somebody for other reasons, but still respect the analytical depth that a person like that brings to the table. That's not with Uganda's elites in the human rights and civil society and opposition varieties. No, they're incapable of that. Otherwise, my article could not have generated resistance, hostility, disagreement. I said, oh, old man, since you have known him for long, I'm beginning to learn something. You're telling me something I didn't know. They're not interested in knowledge. They're interested in clinging and romancing and cuddling their prejudices. That's what I read online. Because none of those people come say, oh, you have a very different perspective. Let me give you an example. Where I even think that Muhoozi is one of the most ferocious animals in terms of intellect I've dealt with. There is a time I went in 2001. I interviewed the president of Sudan at that time, Mohammed al-Bashir. Al-Bashir, Omar al-Bashir. I wasn't impressed, actually. I felt he was dull and inarticulate. So when I met Muhoozi, not even that same day, a couple of years later, and shared my view of Bashir, he said, oh, Andrew, stop there. You don't know that man. When you sit in a meeting with him and talk to him, you are likely to walk away thinking that he's an idiot because he's inarticulate and because he doesn't express himself well. But that man is an incredible character. If you have been an enemy on the other side, his strategic thinking, his planning, his strategizing is brilliant. Also, I was taken aback. Remember, at this time, this man was the biggest enemy of Uganda. We had even our troops fighting the Sudan at that time. And I felt this man is not up to the task. But just imagine Muhoozi warning me and saying, look, whatever impressions you get should not blind you about his intellectual ability. Now, that is Muhoozi, the intellectual. He does not allow his personal prejudices about somebody to cloud his judgment of the person. You see? And I think that Ugandan elites and intellectuals in the civil society, in the so-called civil society, in the human rights, so-called human rights community, in the opposition community, are incapable of such analytical insights because for them, an argument is intellectually deep only and only when it agrees with them. So if they disagree with something, then it is wrong. Now let me come to the other ones who have even talked to me. They talked to me about his tweets. You need to be blinded by a large degree of prejudice to try to understand Muhoozi's tweets. First of all, whatever they say about these tweets, let somebody quote for me one tweet there that they find stupid. One. And the listeners are here, I'm open to listen to them. And I am sure because maybe they lack it's not that they lack the intelligence, they're too prejudiced and blended by malice and prejudice in their minds to see the method in MK's tweets. Because MK has been tweeting for long. In a tweet, you're not trying to prove that you can win a Nobel Prize. But you're trying to communicate to a mass audience. He has films he communicates about. He has communicated about his attitude towards the United States, the biggest imperialist power interfering in every country in the world. He has tweeted about the need for a strategic friendship between Uganda and Rwanda. He has tweeted about the humanitarian disaster happening in Eastern DRC against the Tutsis there. And his belief that M23 is a legitimate organization with legitimate grievances, which is the position, by the way, of the East African Community, of the International Conference on the Great Lakes Region, ICGRC. It is also the position of the Luanda Dialogue. So he's not even articulating necessarily a personal view. The final one, he has tweeted issues on Ethiopia at one time. And he was critical of the methods employed by the Ethiopian government in its scorched earth policy in Tigray. The same human rights committee should have gone and read the reports of Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, also blaming the Ethiopian government. Maybe Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International are stupid. They're not intelligent, but their position and that of Muhoozi in regard to the activities of the Ethiopian army was still the same. So some other things he has tweeted were really jokes to share with friends, whether they were about girls or when he joked about Kenya. Nobody with half a brain would not have noticed that General Muhoozi was joking that I'm going to invade Kenya and occupy Nairobi in 2 weeks. I have asked this before. Did the Kenyan elites who took that joke seriously run out of Nairobi because he was going to occupy it? Did the Kenyan government, if they were to take it not as a joke, but as a serious policy pronouncement, move troops to Busia to defend their country? The fact that no one took action shows that everyone across the board understood that this was a joke. And President Museveni, when he finally apologized, it is not because of what Muhoozi tweeted. It is because Kenyan and Ugandan elites, in either their intellectual poverty or malice and prejudice, unable to see a joke for what it was, took it out of context, pressured in Kenya, they pressured Ruto, and then President Museveni felt that I need to do something for President Ruto, so he apologized for him. But it is simply because, which is of course disgusting, that the Ugandan elites, incapable of seeing a joke for what it is, took it seriously.
Okay. Andrew, you make a sweeping statement there, and I know the opposition and everyone who's been against your description of the man will be very angry with you that they are incapable of analytical insights, and that if you don't agree with them, you are automatically qualified as not intelligent, and therefore they come from a place of malice, ignorance, and prejudice.
Yes, I don't think their incapacities come from lack of intelligence. I've told you. Many of those people, they are quite intelligent people. But I think that prejudice always acts as a blanket on our brain. It stops our ability to think and think creatively. Remember, Razia, the founder of Western philosophy was Socrates, and he said that philosophy begins when one learns to doubt, especially to doubt one's strongly held beliefs, dogmas, and axioms. You need to begin to doubt. I have many positions I have held, which I begin questioning. Immediately I hold an opinion, I question it. And when I question it, sometimes I get better at it because I'm questioning it or talking to those people who disagree with me. But sometimes I make adjustments to my position based on new knowledge. So if I had a view of Muhoozi and somebody close to him came and talked to me about him, I'm more inclined to try to learn than try to resist. I gave you an example of Mal al-Bashir. I've never had another interaction with him. But Muhoozi gave me something that made me to pause and think. Here was his enemy. No love lost between the two of them. And he was warning me, don't underestimate this man. Whatever you saw is likely to mislead you about his competencies. And I was immediately included. And I gave that as an illustration of Muhoozi's kind of broad analytical mind. You can't lie him by appearing to be. He will judge you on much more other criteria than simply the fact that you are inarticulate in an interview with a journalist. I'll give you an example. One of the greatest minds in the whole world today, who is still, I don't know whether he's still living, Daniel Kahneman. He wrote a book, Thinking Fast and Slow. So he appears on a television show with a journalist, and so journalists are so good at sound bites. This journalist doesn't even have Kahneman's, is even a Nobel Prize winner in economics, actually. This journalist cannot even make up 50% of this guy's IQ. But the journalist, knowing soundbite, now Daniel Kahneman is trying to explain a very complex concept of how financial markets work. And the journalist is using hackneyed, off-the-street, conventional wisdom, platitudes, and swap lines. He came across as having beaten Kahneman. And you see, people wondered why was Kahneman on the TV. He's not educated in speaking in sound bites. His ideas are too complex to break down to another TV audience of entertainers, you see. So I am always conscious of the fact that don't judge a book by its cover. Be always, and this way again, Muhoozi beats these Ugandans, because you see, Muhoozi has an incredible thirst and hunger for knowledge. He's a permanent student. He's every day reading, watching documentaries, listening, learning, enriching himself every single day. These ones are always like me, speaking and letting off so much and putting in so little. You can understand why prejudice, therefore, governs the analysis. You know, if you ask cognitive scientists, they will tell you that human beings are inherently cognitive misers. We prefer to do as little thinking as possible. I don't want to go into the evolutionary reasons why we do very little thinking. We use about maybe 25% of our brain capacity. So when we confront a problem, rather than try to amass a volume of facts, to understand it, what we normally do is we retreat to our prejudices, assumptions, presuppositions, conceptions, preconceived notions, whatever you can call it. We rely on them to guide us. Prejudices, biases, feelings, intuitions, things like that. So it's not that many of Moses' critics have employed their mind. My article was just to stimulate their mind. Anyone intelligent would have said, old man, I need to learn more about this guy. Say, no, we have been on Twitter. Even on Twitter, I think he comes across as really giving you. Twitter is not a place for Nobel Prize winners, but even his ideas on Twitter, whether it's grammatical, spelling, or construction, or whatever it is, and even the information he's giving, are very important. They should make somebody pause and reflect and think. But these guys are so consumed by malice and prejudice, they can't think beyond their nose. That's the problem, Razia.
So you mentioned that the general is selfish with his intellectual gifts, and now you've also highlighted again our failure to understand his posts, his social media jokes. So what steps do you think he could take maybe to better engage with the public he so very well, of course, understands and showcase his capabilities?
This is what I'm saying, Razia. I don't think Muhoozi should aim there to prove himself on anything. In any case, I have told you strategically, if I was Moses' advisor, I would say it is so important for you to keep your opponents believing the way they do, because it allows them to underestimate you. There is no better advantage a fighter needs in the field, whether it's politics, whether it's marketing, whether you're marketing a product, selling a candidate, or a cause. You need the other side to underestimate you. And therefore, what these people feel about him is not a disadvantage to him. And he doesn't need to prove anything. Therefore, in fact, he should keep them thinking like that. Because then the haymaker will be hidden from them. And when he hits them, they will not understand, they will not be prepared for the blow that will be setting upon them. So essentially, if I was to advise Moses, I said, we need to keep your critics like that. The problem with me is that I'm an honest person who reveals his secrets. The other thing is, Muhoozi may also make a choice not to be out there speaking to everybody, because what does it do for him? There is a myth around him, and it's very important for his, if in future he decides to go into politics. So you don't want also to remove the myth. You don't need to be everywhere speaking to everybody. Me, I'm trained as a journalist through that. I don't think he should do that. However, if I have my desires away from my strategic thinking, where I sometimes feel like Muhoozi needs to interact with more Ugandans, especially not of the human rights and the civil society activists funded by Americans and Europeans and things like that. These are really urgent for foreign interests. But more genuine Ugandans who want to know and understand and want to interact with him, he should create more time to interact with Ugandans. People will even appreciate him much more if they interacted with him, because Muhoozi has 3 areas of intelligence where I think he is an all-rounder. One, I've told you, he has very good cognitive intelligence. He recognizes the strength of an opponent. He will, whether it is an argument or organization. Most people are driven intuitively to despise their enemies, but Muhoozi may disagree with someone, may dismiss somebody tactically, but he will not dismiss them strategically. He will take any opponent seriously at a strategic level. At a tactical level, he may despise them, but at a strategic level, he will take them seriously. And I think that he may have learned from the dad. But most importantly, he could have learned it from Chairman Mao of China, Mao Zedong, because he's a big admirer of Mao Zedong. He has read not less than 6 biographies of Mao. I don't know any Ugandan who has read one. You see, so in terms of strategy, he's damn good at it. The second thing, he has what I would call social intelligence. He has a very good understanding of his social context. And these Ugandans on Twitter do not even represent 10% of the views of Ugandans. And these Ugandans who are very critical of his Twitter posts should ask themselves, what has made Muhoozi a subject of discussion across his country? It is Twitter posts. His Twitter posts are enlisting in a storm of debate every day. And if you're trying to market a candidate or a cause, the most important thing you need is not the details. Even a first-rate student of psychology, of human psychology, will tell you that what you need is top-of-the-mind awareness. And he's achieving that. Why are we discussing him right now? Why is he a subject of discussion? Museveni does not have only one son or one child. He has many children. Some of them are pretenders to the throne. Why are they not attracting as much public attention as Muhoozi? Please tell me, Razia. There is something in his tweets that ignites the people, the popular excitement in Uganda. In Kenya, in the region, I have seen Western media now being interested in him, writing about him, this and that. They may rate negatively, but they are beginning to recognize him. So if you think those tweets are bad for him, then you're not thinking. I don't see how harmful they have been to him. They may be harmful to a particular section of Ugandan, of the Ugandan commentariat and the Western commentariat, but have they been harmful to the growth of his brand? In whose mind? A very small section of Ugandans who will not be his supporters anyway. Remember, when you're trying to sell a candidate or a cause, it's important to know that there are 3 groups. There are your fans. They will always be there for you, and you can use those as your volunteers to do your campaigning for you. They are your haters, prejudiced people, malicious people, people like that. They will never come in. You have no intention of trying to win them over. Never invest in them. Don't invest 1 minute of your time. It's worthless. It's like talking to a dead phone. They won't change. Then there are what we call the middle people, the undecideds. So if we want to poll who takes Muhoozi seriously, we are not his fans, not the haters. We need to look at the undecided. Every day, the Muhoozi ship is attracting more passengers. The bus is filled with filling because of his tweets. Should he stop the tweets? I am not convinced that he should, because they give him a lot of visibility if he has future political ambitions. They give him what we call top of mind awareness. Now everybody's talking about Muhoozi. You write this article about Eno Museveni's children, make that tweet that what is his name made. Hmm? My friend Nicholas Opio. You tweet about Eno Museveni's children, whether we'll have this debate. And it's not because Muhoozi is the CDF. A lot of these controversies of his tweets started when he was he did not have much of a official job except to be special operations advisor to the president or something. So it's something about his tweets that is generates serious public imagination. Should he stop? I don't want him to stop and think himself into oblivion.
What about the impact of his tweets or what you call in jokes on his position as the CDF, also in the way that the international community, for example, views him?
When you talk of the international community, Razia, I advise you not to look at the international community as the Western world. Because when Muzungu from Europe and North America are talking of the international community, they mean them. Western Europe and the United States are 1 billion people. The rest of the world, we are 7 billion. How can the views of 1 billion, 1 billion where there is even no unified position, that may be a position of 10%, or let me say of the 1% of the 1 billion, right? That's 10 million. How can their position be the position of the Indians? China has 1.5 billion people, India has 1.5 billion. That is already 3 billion. 3 times more than the whole Western world. Are they complaining about Moses tweets? Indonesia, Brazil, have you had a complaint there? Across Africa, have you had a complaint? So I don't want you to also be led into this belief that the West constitutes the world. That's exactly what they would like, but they don't. That's a fact. And global power is shifting from the West to the East. So their claims to represent the world, international opinion, is not true. Even in the West itself, I don't think the many people in America disagree with what.
We've lost Andrew. If you can hear me, we've lost Andrew, but I think he should be able to return shortly. In the meantime, I'll just go through the comments section. I can see so many people also requesting to have an opportunity for that. But for now, let me just take in a few comments from the comment section. Joe, with things with great responsibility and talking about your political spaces from someone with that kind of power is really difficult. And we also have Engineer Valon Abbas, who says we are so excited and waiting for Muhoozi to become our president, but as a country with a number of problems, mostly unemployment, and that he can work on us before he even becomes president. And we also have Ruamojo John, who says I'm thrilled by the return of my man and Mwenda to the scenes of the series of educative shows, this time around about the country's favorite. And we have again Kellen MK, who says most people just don't love General Muhoozi because they're scared that when he comes in as the president, he will stop all the bad habits of the government. But still, there's nothing to do, and there will be, as having no one can stop MK from leading this country. Let me just come back and see people who've been requesting to speak. Okay, Andrew is back. I'll just invite him to speak again. Okay, Andrew, I'm trying to add you as a speaker. And
Hello? Now, I'm sorry I lost you there. I think my internet went off. It shows how poor I am.
in a second,
Yes.
phone is connecting. In the meantime, let me give Donald Businje an opportunity to comment. Okay, Donald, go ahead.
Thank you so much. I'm Donald Kevsing, the national coordinator of the MK Army. I also want to share my experience with General Muhoozi Kainerugaba. I've had a few interactions with him. I want to tell the people listening in to this space that all the assessments my senior colleague Andrew Mwenda has said are true. He's extremely intelligent to the extent that some of us would go to make our reports to him, and you present and speak what you are going to present. You speak for 30 minutes, and he will just ask you questions which will summarize everything else that you didn't talk about in a very intelligent way. So for us who have been advocating for him to be our next president, we know the caliber of the person we are producing for the country. And it is even in our strength that people misunderstand or underestimate him. It is our strength, because for us, we know the leader that we have. But also people need to know social media is the social. Being on social media, someone can say to put a different image there, and he has not put something out of character, the person I know. That is exactly who the general is. He loves Uganda, he loves Africa, he's proud of his country, he loves UPDF from his heart, and he loves the youth of this country. That is my submission at the host. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Donald. Let me also give a chance to Patrick Mwenda. The bottom right of the screen, you can type your comments and should be able to sample your feedback during this discussion. Okay, I can see Andrew is trying to connect, so is Patrick.
I am online. Do you hear me?
Okay, Andrew, you can carry on. I think we were talking about the criticism that General Kainerugaba faces regarding the implications of his position as CDF, particularly in relation to the public and maybe even international perception.
Yes, I had told Razia that first. The issue, if he has violated anything within the UPDF, I think that is a matter of the UPDF to handle. I don't think that anyone here should mourn more than the bereaved. There is the commander-in-chief of the UPDF. There is the whole hierarchy, the Army High Command of UPDF. If they feel aggrieved, they will take disciplinary action against Muhoozi. If they haven't, they won't. So I don't know why activists on social media feel more aggrieved. They are mourning more than the bereaved, more than the UPDF. The UPDF has not complained. What are they complaining about? I really don't understand that, Raja. Do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, but the other point that...
so many people are still responding to you, and their argument is that your defense of the general is biased to your long-standing friendship.
So let me ask you, Razia, if I wanted somebody to defend Jesus Christ, do I go and look for a person who has read the Bible, the New Testament especially, from beginning to end? Or do I go and find a person who has never interacted with the Bible to defend the issue?
You make a point.
So if you want to know about Muhoozi,
need an explanation.
I have known Muhoozi for 32 years. That is 1, 2. More than any Ugandan I know. I could be the person who has shared in terms of intellectual life more than with anybody else. In terms of sharing books, debating issues, military, historical, geopolitical, geostrategic, debating Che Guevara, Mao, Kagame, Museveni, Muhoozi, if you look at the communications, he calls me Chiang. I call him Chairman Mao. Chairman Mao and Chiang Kai-shek were the bitter rivals in the Chinese Civil War that ended in 1949. The Generalissimo, Chiang Kai-shek, and the leader of the communists, Chairman Mao. Just even imagine our own nicknames to each other. We used to call Kapshenga when he was in our group we used to call him Chu and Lai. Chu and Lai was the closest strategic ally and friend of Mao. So you can clearly see from these affectionate nicknames that me and Muhoozi don't agree. That's why I'm Chiang and he's Mao. The person talking about Muhoozi here is not a person who agrees with Muhoozi. Everyone here knows I have criticized the president and the government. The president sent me to jail. Muhoozi has come to see me there in jail. What does that tell you, Razia, about this man? His father has sent me to jail. He has come and visited me there. What does that tell you about him? Two, all my life, even a week ago or 2 weeks ago, you can go on the independent website and read my columns on Uganda. I'm very critical of the government of Uganda. In spite of that, Muhoozi has remained a close friend of mine. What does that tell about him? For all these people who talk from ignorance, what does it say about him? Let me give you an example. Uganda was close to going to war with Rwanda. A few days ago, 2 years ago, which person boarded a plane and flew into Rwanda, into enemy territory? You have to reconstruct this relationship. You think it takes what? Foolishness to do that? Man, this one I see these Ugandans, sometimes they should laugh and say, poor them. Because the worst of dangers is ignorance. The worst of dangers is offspring of little knowledge. When you don't know, learn. When they don't know Ugandans, they become experts of ignorance. And that's the crisis of this country. They become experts of ignorance. Honestly, if what I wrote about Muhoozi after 32 years of knowing the guy, if any other Ugandan did it about anybody else I had no knowledge of, I would say I need to go and encounter this person. I need to experience him to see this, prove it right or wrong. But there must be some curiosity, the hunger to learn. What intrigues me and actually annoys me about Ugandans, because I would prefer our people to these elites on social media to lately, perhaps I'm being idealistic, is they lack every form of thirst and hunger to learn, to listen, to understand, to challenge their assumptions, their prejudices every day. To just take to heart the principle of stated 2,400 years ago by Socrates, that philosophy begins. And there's a guy I'm told is a philosopher called Aspire or something. Philosophy begins when one learns to doubt, especially to doubt one's strongly held beliefs, dogmas, and axioms. Razia, when you see somebody not doubting their strongly held, especially when those beliefs are based on few tweets, you want to understand a person? You read a few tweets. In any case, whatever they read in those tweets, I disagree with what. There's a young man, he's part of my intellectual clan, called Yusuf Serunkuma. I saw him one day on TV. And he was making a very important point. And it really made me admire Serunkuma because he's a very insightful person. He's very critical of Museveni. He said, look, people are not understanding Muhoozi. There is something deep with communicating. People are just reading the surface. They are not penetrating the surface to try to understand what is the hidden meaning. Because in his position, he may not communicate many things directly. I was impressed. I watched on TV and I immediately called him. I said, my friend, you are up something. I can see you have a good brain in your head. But most people, the gray matter between their 2 ears is really, really blanketed. Many Ugandans are really intelligent. They just suffer from extreme prejudice. And prejudice